Anyway, I'm talking about times of transition and transformation. Those things go hand in hand, transition and transformation. Now, this time of year, when I was a kid, in fact, for years and years, even after, this time of year, I got all revved up. Why? Why do you think? This time of year? School. I mean, it's a time of transition. I loved to play, and I loved having the summer off, and sometimes I got lazy, but as a teenager, I had a 10-speed bike, and I was biking all over the place, and I was ahead of my time. I had these jeans that had, big holes and slashes in them. I was setting a trend. You didn't know who started that. And, I had long hair, and I remember showing up at one real fancy church like that, and they just stared at me, and they didn't know whether to greet me or what. But school was always a time of transition, going into a new grade, going in, I'm going to learn new stuff, more is going to be expected of me. I kind of wanted things to stay the same. But teachers had this idea that my thinking, my knowledge should be increasing, and that actually I should be doing more and more. I thought, wow, when is this going to end? Well, and, went to college, and the further I went in school, the more I liked it. So by the time I was in a master's degree, it's like, oh, I really like school now. My teachers in grade school and high school would have been very surprised. But it was like a time of transition. And all of us have been going through transition. I remember March 17th of last year very, very well. March 17th of last year was when we went in the shelter in place around here. And I thought, whoa, how am I going to pastor during a time like this? I mean, what's church going to be like when we're all sheltered in place? And I didn't know. Nobody knew. We were all figuring it out as we went. And so were lots of businesses, and some businesses, I heard one statistic, I don't know how accurate this is, but I heard this on the news, that 40% of the businesses and restaurants in San Francisco closed during this time. Wow. 40%. I mean, talk about transition. And we're trying to figure out, how do we relate to each other, and what do we do, and how do we make it? So we've all been going through transition, and transition is other things too. It's relationship changes. It's a transition when you get closer to someone, and it's like, oh, let's take this to the next level. I remember Olga Lucia and I were friends for a year and a half before we ever started dating. For some reason, she thought I was a Catholic priest. I was working at a Catholic hospital system, and some people at the hospital did call me Father because that's what they knew to call me. And, Olga Lucia and I, my wife, were spending time together, and one day I was talking about my son, and she's like, your son? She said, how did that happen? I said, well, sit down, I'll explain this to you. Anyway, we were out walking one day by the river. In Wichita, we call it the Arkansas River. That's how you know you're from Wichita. You call it the Arkansas, not the Arkansas River. And so we were walking by the Arkansas River, and I reached down to take her hand. And she looked up at me, and she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm holding your hand. She said, yeah, but why? She said, I thought we were friends. I said, well, we are friends. I just want to be even better friends. It was a time of transition. And she found out I wasn't a priest. So even when things are like improving and going our way, any change is a time of transformation. And certainly when a relationship is ending, or when someone is moving away, or when you are moving, or when your job is changing, or you've lost your job, or you're given a whole lot more responsibilities at your job, or the children that you were raising that were so sweet are now teenagers, and you wonder what kind of diabolical demon has entered them. And whatever type of transition you're going through in your life, we're all filled with transition. It's part of life. Life is transition. And yet we resist it. We resist the very thing that makes life life. And what is the purpose of transition? Well, it walks hand in hand with transformation. Now, when I talk with church groups, when I talk with spiritual groups, and I ask them, how many of you want transformation in your lives? You know, all the hands go up. Yeah, they all want transformation. They all want to grow. They all want to evolve. They all want to become more of this presence of God living itself as them. They want to expand. They want to grow. Yes, I want to transform. And when I say it happens by transition, then they're like, oh, you don't know. We tend to resist change. And yet change, at least in this dimension, in this world, change is constant. The change of relationships, the change of, all the different things going on in our lives. It can be health, it can be finances, it can be whatever. Change. So, how do we navigate transition and use it as an opportunity for transformation, like this doorway? It's an invitation. I first encourage you to recognize that transition that is going on in your life is an invitation. It is a divine invitation to a new life. Now, I share personal stories. Sometimes I wonder if I share too many. Well, okay, thank you. But sometimes I wonder, because it's like, oh my goodness, these people are going to know everything about me, and I don't want them to think it's all about me, because it's not. But it's difficult for me to tell intimate, difficult stories about other people's lives unless they give me permission. I keep that stuff confidential. But me, hey, you know. So, years ago, I was going through a divorce. It was excruciating. It was very, very painful. I didn't know quite who I was at that time. I remember going to, his name is Stu, and I went to the divorce attorney's office, Stu, and I remember going into the bathroom before I went into his office. There were probably more than one reason for that. One was, man, I just need to gather myself. I remember walking in front of the mirrors in the bathroom, and I took off my glasses, and I just got up real close to the mirror, and I looked myself very close in the eyes. No one else was in the bathroom. And I thought and said, you're changing. I don't know how we're going to get through this. I don't know even for sure who you are anymore. But I know one thing. We're going to make it through this. There's something in you that's stronger than any circumstances, and we're going to get through this. We're going to make it. And we're going to go into that attorney's office. And it's going to be painful. And it hurts like hell. But there is something greater in us that's emerging, and we're going to allow this to emerge. That's what a transition is. It's a call to emergence. It's a call to what I call UIR. Now, some of you were in the first service, but those of you who didn't hear the first service, UIR stands for unexpected inner resources. We all have unexpected inner resources. It's innate. I mean, that's that divine presence living itself as us, which was never born and will never die. That unexpected strength that keeps us going, those unexpected insights that we wonder, where did that come from? I will listen to myself sometimes. Sometimes I'll listen to myself on the, I'll watch one of these services. And honestly, I will sit there and think, wow, I never thought of that before. Seriously. I will hear things, it's like, never thought of that. Well, great idea. Let me write that down. Inside of each one of us are these unexpected inner resources, ideas, perseverance, creativity, the ability to keep going. So first, recognize that transition is an divine invitation to emergence, to growth, to expansion. Secondly, realize you have these unexpected inner resources, and the you could stand for something even more, unlimited inner resources. You have these unlimited inner resources acting on your behalf. But sometimes they can't be engaged until we're in transition, just like going into a new grade at school. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but how else will you bring this forth? How else will this emerge? So the transitions in our lives are calling us to something deeper, calling us to a greater expansion and expression of the divine living as us. And when you've gone through transition, and all of us are, you find out who you can really trust. Like when I was going through that divorce, I found out who my real friends are. Right? Have you had those experiences where you find out the real people that are your friends, the real people that really love you no matter what? You find out what your support system is, or if you don't have it, you begin to work on developing it. So transition calls us not only to this divine expansion and to unexpected, unlimited inner resources. It calls us to develop our network, our support system, to find out who our friends really are. And it's an invitation to find out who we really are. I find out in times of transition who I am. I find out more and more. We're kind of like an onion. And so you peel back a layer at a time and you keep peeling. And, some people are like, I don't want to peel anymore. I've had enough transition. Enough already. But life continues to bring it and to call us to more and more depth. And this is what our book study is going to be about. That will be a 7-week book study starting the week of September 20th. It'll be meeting in different houses, different locations. It'll be meeting online. So all of you who are watching online, you are invited to participate. Whatever part of the world you're from, we're using the book Finding Yourself in Transition by Robert Brahman. So finding yourself in transition, not just finding that you're in transition, but finding yourself, finding your real self in this. And there's sign-ups out in the courtyard. We'll hear a little bit more about that from Reverend Deanne in a few moments. But I'd really like to encourage you to embrace transition, not resist it. I was talking to someone after the first service, and they were asking about on September 19th, when we go to the one service, outdoors, at least for a while. They want to know how long. I'm like, I don't know. But it's all part of this transition. And I was talking about that being a time where we really develop more community, bring everyone together, having that time together. And I told them that the staff, all of the staff, pretty much, right, Debbie? We're encouraging this. We have weekly staff meeting, and in this staff meeting, all these different voices. I'm like, what? Did they meet before they met with me? Did they all come to agreement? What's up? So all of them were talking about, let's go to one service. Let's try it. Let's try one service at 10 o'clock. And I was resisting. I was sharing with people that, you could see the fingernail marks on the walls, like, ah. Am I right, Debbie?
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes. So, but 2 days later, I was excited and telling people, so just something like that can cause resistance in us. What of bigger changes? And here I am inviting you to embrace those transitions, embrace those times of grief, and to allow yourself time to grieve and allow it to be a time of transformation. Here I am encouraging you. Sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, oh, I'm going through this grief. I'm going through this big change in my job. Can you tell me some ways to distract myself? I'm serious. They want me to help them to distract themselves. They say, it's on my mind too much. Can you help me to figure out a way that this isn't on my mind so much that I don't have to think about it? And what I tell them is, I encourage you to embrace it. They're like, what? They're like, I'm trying to forget it. I'm like, no, embrace this. This is here at this time. This is your life. So embrace your life. How else are you going to go deeper in your life unless you embrace it? Why distract yourself from your own life? Many of us, in the Western culture, have learned to distract ourselves from our own lives so people don't even know who they are. This is a time for us to embrace change, to embrace transition. I know that isn't pleasant. And yet, remember, it's a divine invitation to growth, to expansion. It's a time for us to discover those unexpected, unlimited inner resources. It's a time for us to really discover our network, our safety net, or develop that. It's a time for us to really find out who we are. It's a time for us to grow, to expand, to explore. I didn't ask your permission. Do I have your permission? Okay. So, moving in 2 weeks to Auburn, California, north. And a lot of times when I'm talking with people, they're afraid of change. And what I was hearing, without you necessarily knowing what I was going to be talking about, is it's an adventure. I'm looking forward to this adventure. I'm looking forward, and it'll help wake us up, to get us out of, this same old, same old. Wow. That's the way to approach transition. Or you can do the fingernail thing. But, after a while, it's like, okay, let it go. Let it go. And embrace this. And find out what new growth is there in this. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. So join us in that book study. And that's what Unity MRN is here for, is to help provide that safety net as we're going through transformation. And sometimes when people are going through transformation, they will talk to me privately and use emotions and language that could just peel the paint off of walls. That's part of the process. And I'm like, just bring it out. It's not going to destroy me. God's not going to fall apart because you use colorful language. I mean, my God is a little bigger than that, And just allow yourself to be real, but embrace it and embrace the transformation that's coming. A great example, and Robert Brummett in his book uses several biblical examples, but one example is the whole account that we have of Jesus being crucified, going into the tomb, and then rising again. When we're going through some transitions, it feels like being crucified. And then there can be this abyss time of the void, of going into the tomb, of just feeling empty. Like, what is the point? What am I doing? Is this what I wanted to be like at this point in my life? But it's all leading to new life. It's all leading to a resurrection. It's all leading to the expansion of what you really are. So I invite you to repeat after me. Where I am, God is. Where God is, there are unexpected inner resources. I have unlimited inner resources. I embrace my change. Even ramp it up more. I embrace my change. Because I embrace my transformation. And so it is. Amen. Okay.